into the waiting room. The waiting room was about a square the size of this space right here, without a piece of furniture in it. It didn't have a chair to sit on. It didn't have, it had no floor covering. It was just masonite, nailed down masonite. Pretty barren. Okay, and just so I don't weary you here, we went out, stayed there for about 15 minutes, and they called us back in. And this Mr. Johnson said to me, Terry, when do you start school? And I said, I'd be in school today if I'd had a job. He said, would it help if I called your school? And I said, well, it can't hurt anything. I said, you need to call Mr. Baldwin. He dialed up the school's number, and he talked to Mr. Baldwin for about 60 seconds. Hung up the telephone and said, you can come. They said you can come in and register. Now I said all that to say this, folks. That was at the very last minute. You see what I'm saying? All this time, it could have happened 5 days earlier, but it happened the day of registration for school. From 3 to 5 days later, Mr. Johnson called me into his office, called me into work, first of all, and about the second or third day of work, he called me into his office one evening. I was cleaning the office up and dumping the waste baskets. I was running machinery, whatever they had to do, I did it while he was thinking about it. He called me in his office and he said, he reached in and he pulled that top drawer out of his desk, pulled out a key, he laid it on the top of the desk there, and he said, take this, and he said, whenever you have time to come to work, come in. We'll give you a list of things you can do. Come in and work when you can. And if you have to take time off because you've got a test, go. And he knew me for 3 days. And I had a key to the plant. Now, I said all that to say this, folks. That event was my confirmation, the first confirmation that I had, that this was outside of what I had inside here, that this was what God wanted me to do. Do you understand what I'm saying? It was the confirmation. Now, I said that to say this, folks. You have things in your history, in your life, that you have seen God move on your behalf. And if things get tough down the road, don't forget the times that He's already shown you the way. You understand what I'm saying? Don't forget. Bring to remembrance the things that you have experienced in your own life that have verified that God hears your prayers and answers them. There are things, there's a time to remember. There's a time to forget. Jesus was asked on one occasion by his disciples, how many times do I forgive? 7 times? Jesus said, until 70 times 7. I don't believe he was even limiting that. I believe what he was saying is, don't keep track of it. And the one translation that Beth, that I've heard her quote, from the scripture, how was it? Love keeps no record of wrong. I bring that up, folks, because there may be times when we're called in front of somebody that that really don't like us at all. There are people who think that you are the problem that our country has right now. You and I are the problem. And there are people that will make it very clear that that's the way they feel about it. It's hard to forgive, folks. It's hard to forgive. But in reality, think about this. Jesus said, if you don't forgive, you won't be forgiven. Now that's serious business, folks. That's underplayed a lot of times in our experience in our life, but that is serious business. Can you imagine what heaven would be like if there was one person in there that hated? Wouldn't be very long knowing the track record of what Satan operates like. Wouldn't be very long before hatred would be everywhere, wouldn't it? Yeah. We have to forgive. And we have to acknowledge that all the time. One more thing I want to mention. I think it's Ezekiel. I believe it's Ezekiel that received a message. God said to him, I've made you a watchman. I'm not certain if I've got the right prophet, but I made you a watchman. And if I allow, let's say, just really hard times, or I send a sword among you, and I tell you to give warning. And he said, if you warn the sinner and he does not listen, he said, you have delivered your soul, and his blood will be on his own hands. But, and this is the kicker, if you fail, I've made you a watchman. If you fail to warn, and he is lost, his blood I will require at your hands. Now that is a serious challenge, folks. So, and I said all that to say this. I see things happening that I can see right now that we're in a position that the mark of the beast that the scripture talks about could very easily be upon us in a matter of 3 days from now. I mean, the machinery is set up because I am going to tell you this. Every attempt is being made right now, folks, to condition you to do exactly what you are told to do. And I have never seen the kind of pressure political pressure that's being put on as there is right now. And I'll just refer to this incident. I don't know, what was it, 10, 12, 15 years ago? We had a swine flu. Remember that? We had that upsurge of the swine flu. And they came up with a vaccination for the swine flu. And after it had been out to the public for a fairly short period of time, there were 2 people that were reported to have died from the vaccination. The FDA shut it off and pulled it off the market until they could find out what it was that was the problem with that vaccination. You remember that at all? They pulled it. Now we've got a vaccination running around the country that has already, well, they call it the, what is it?
Clot shot.
Yeah, the clot shot. Because they know that it causes blood clot. And yet it is being pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed until there's discussion of all kinds of things that force you into having this shot. And you know why, what you're told? You're told that you owe it to your neighbor. We're looking out for your neighbor. Folks, I'm gonna tell you, they're not looking out for anybody except to get you to do what you're told to do. Yeah. I have to be open and let you know that, folks, this thing is bigger than you ever dreamed it was. And as, how should I say, as a watchman, I have to let you know. The reason I'm not telling you that somehow or other it is, you're at risk of doing wrong or anything of the kind. I'm just saying, we need to protect each other. And the time's gonna come, and I listened to I watched a video here, just 3 or 4 minute video that Katie Nichol sent to me. And it was a video of